Your mission statement should guide every decision that you make at work and in life. If you start to go off the path, look at your mission statement. That's going to put you back on the path.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
One last thing before we get into today's episode. A lot of people ask how they can support the podcast. Well, I have a couple easy ways. The first way is just listen and subscribe. And another thing you can do is go follow the Roughnecks podcast on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube as well. If you get something out of today's show, then do me a favor. Share it with a friend. If you really want to go above and beyond to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and get you some of that merch. I appreciate all of the support, but let's get into today's episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you guys that there is a fall merch drop coming soon. New merch for the Roughnecks podcast is dropping on Friday, November 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Be on the lookout on social media for some sneak peeks of the items that will be out, but that merch drop is coming on Friday, November 18th. But let's get into today's episode. And joining me today, I have Clay Garcia of Operation Impact 22. Clay, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So just to kind of kick off the episode for the people who don't know you that are listening, kind of tell people who you are and what you do.
As you covered, my name is Clay Garcia. I currently live in central Iowa. That's where we moved to Iowa when I was a kid, went to school here. I joined the United States Navy after I graduated high school. I did 5 years in the Navy as a Navy hospital corpsman. I was stationed primarily on the East Coast at Camp Lejeune, spent some time in Virginia, and my last tour of duty was in Keflavik, Iceland, at a NATO base in Iceland. Camp Lejeune, I did 2 deployments to Iraq. My first deployment was with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, and my second deployment was with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines. I got out of the Navy and I went to school. I actually went to school to be a teacher. My job in the Navy as a medic during Iraq was less than desirable. So I actually got out and I wanted to get as far away from medicine as possible. So I went to school to be a teacher. It turned out I sucked at school and ended up getting back into medicine. So I went back to EMT school. I'd lost my certification due to time. I ultimately went in a paramedic school and I got a job as a firefighter. So I still currently am a firefighter. I have now taken more of a desk role. So I sit behind a desk and I'm the fire marshal. So I enforce building and fire code, and that's what I do for a living. Married and got three kids, 3 boys. So my downtime at home is officiating Fight Club between my boys. So that's what I do. And to add more onto that, a few years ago I started Operation Impact 22 due to some guys that I served with committing suicide, and I kind of took a stance on trying to help where I could, and it's where we are today. So that's the down and dirty on me. So
I like that you mentioned school's not for everyone. It does happen that way. If I was not playing college football, even just at the D3 level, I would not have made it through school. There is no way, and college at least. Yeah, school's definitely not for everyone, and I feel like they don't push the trades and all that kind of stuff, even fire, like EMT, all that kind of stuff. They don't push it enough in high school because you're supposed to just go straight from high school to college. Like that's the the way to do it, but it's not necessarily the right path for every single person. Everybody has a different path, and certain people are meant to go to college, and
Yeah.
other people just aren't. But I
It's interesting. When I got out, kind of a funny story. The reason I ultimately joined the Navy was because I didn't want to take my ACTs, SATs, whatever they're called. I didn't want to take them. I did horrible in high school, and largely I think the reason that I ultimately graduated high school was because of sports. I wrestled primarily. Being in Iowa, we kind of have to. Mm-hmm. It's our church, but that was kind of it. So I joined the Navy largely because I wasn't ready for college. Fast forward to my adult life, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree, went on to get my master's degree because I was ready. I knew what I wanted to do. And that was be a firefighter and ultimately climb the ranks into the fire service and be a fire chief. So I knew what I wanted to do. And, I think kids, I use the term now kids because I'm old, but they don't know what they want to do. So they go into college and they waste tons of time and money drinking and doing that scene and teach his own. But you got to figure out what you want to do. And it took me a little while to figure that out. So,
I look back because I went to a very expensive school, but it was because I wanted to go play football. I wasn't quite thinking about the school aspect of it. I ended up finishing my 4 years, getting my bachelor's degree, but then I get out of college with a marketing degree, and now I am working a blue collar job because that's just what I'm used to my whole life. I'm used to, being outside, working that kind of stuff. And that's just, and like people ask me all the time, well, aren't you going to use your degree? Aren't you going to use your degree? And I'm like, in a sense I am with the podcast. So like, it's just, I don't have a job in that sense, but I also look at, I have a job that I love to do. And I feel like that is one of the things you're not going to know that coming out of high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do coming out of high school, but you're never going to know exactly what you want to do, but you have to try things out. You have to do things. I would have never started this podcast if it wasn't for college, but you never know what's going to happen. You have to try, you have to give it a chance, and you never know what you're going to fall into.
Yeah. I tell people that I don't think I grew up until I was about 32, 33 years old, when it all just kind of starts making sense. What do you want to do when you grow up? And, being a firefighter is an amazing job. And I'm lucky, in the sense that I don't want to say I fell into it, but I kind of fell into it, and I'm blessed in the sense that I get to come to work every day and do what I do. But you're right, man. People don't know what they want to do. And really you're spinning your wheels in college. My wife got a degree in something completely irrelevant to what she's doing now. And I think as a world, we need to relook at college and how we approach that, because I think it's kind of silly, So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I want to kind of dive into your time in the Navy first before we go into the other stuff. But you kind of talked about why you joined the Navy, but what was that? The training like for that and going through that, like, is what kind of just take us through what that was like for you.
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2002. So I went to boot camp, and there really wasn't anything war really going on. The war, I remember 9/11 very clear. At the time, though, I don't remember it being, I was in high school, I was a senior, so it didn't really, the magnitude of it didn't click. And, boot camp and then on to corps school. Corps school is really, I would kind of compare it to a nursing school, down and dirty nursing school. Again, and even then it didn't, the Iraq war wasn't kind of on people's radar. After that, I went to field med school. And what field med school for a Navy corpsman is your in-dock course into the Marine Corps. One of our instructors is a Marine Corps instructor, and they teach you kind of how to be a Marine. The unique thing about a Navy corpsman is the Marine Corps doesn't have medical staff. So the Navy does it for them. We can get into that there's tons of jokes and stuff with all that kind of stuff, but it truly is a very unique job in the military, in the Navy, and in the Marine Corps. I spent more time really with the Marines than I did the Navy. So I went to Corps school, went to field med school. They kind of taught me how to be a Marine, if you will. And then really they taught me more of the trauma of medicine. Most people in the military are young males, so they don't have strokes, they don't have heart attacks. They're doing something stupid, or it's a traumatic injury due to a shrapnel or something along those lines. So I finished up Corps school. My actual first duty station was in Portsmouth, Virginia, at the Navy Yard in Portsmouth in Norfolk, Virginia. At that time, the Iraq War was really picking up and taking off. So I actually got augmented from the hospital, which means that they just pulled me to go to a unit that was already in Iraq. So my first deployment to Iraq was with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. And what was significant about 1-2 was Al-Nasiriyah was the conflict that they were involved with. And I got dropped into 1-2 3 or 4 days after that conflict. So I learned how to play spades and I read. That was the extent. I spent 7 months riding around in a 7-ton with a bunch of Marine Corps cooks. So that was my first deployment to Iraq. I'm a spades connoisseur now because of Iraq and that. And so I finished up that deployment, went back to Virginia. The war really amped up more and more. I got augmented again, this time with 2-2. So we did some workups in California and Camp Lejeune. And then that particular deployment was during the Fallujah situation. So I was with 2-2 during the assault on Fallujah and that whole thing. Did my time with them during that. And then again, when I got back to the States from that deployment, the Navy kind of, I think, felt bad for me. So they sent me to Iceland to ride out my last year. And then I got done with Iceland and I ran from the military. I wanted, to get away as far as I could. So
I wanted to, I haven't even said it yet, but I wanted to also say thank you for your service. We do, people do truly appreciate it. I feel like it's something that's not said enough in today's world anymore, but I truly do appreciate you for your service and everything that you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll just jump into it now with the Operation Impact 22. I wanted to, ask, why did it start? Like, where was, the thought process? You kind of already touched on it a little bit, but kind of take us through the process of why you started it and, like what it, first off, tell us what it is and then tell us why it started.
So Operation Impact 22, we're a nonprofit 501c3, and really we deal with veteran and first responder mental health and wellness. So now rewind. So when I was deployed with 2-2, the time I spent with 2-2, we've had a significant number of suicides with Marines that I served with. We lost a lot of guys in Fallujah, some close friends of mine. So, fast forward, we went through this hell of an experience in Iraq, and now we come back to the United States and we've got guys killing themselves left and right at an alarming rate. So I lost a few guys that I served with, and then around 2019 timeframe, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine that I served with that told me that my commanding officer, who I served with in 2-2, Captain Bairstow was his name, had committed suicide. So Captain Bairstow, the only real interaction I had with that guy was he got blown up by a mortar, and I helped him. It mangled him up pretty good, and I remember that incident with him pretty vividly. But other than that, I didn't. He was my CO, so I didn't really have much communication with him. But I got the phone call from a Marine buddy of mine that captain had committed suicide. And I tell you what, it broke my heart. I've been in the firefighter world, the EMS world, the military world for almost 20 years now. So I've seen things, I've done things, you know, but this one truly broke my heart. We deal with that stuff in my daily job now as a firefighter, but this one hurt, right? And I think Captain Bairstow was truly the poster child of the Marine Corps. If you looked up the Marine Corps, he is it. He is the decorated man that is the Marine Corps. And he was fighting something that none of us could truly wrap our head around. And he ultimately didn't want to do it anymore. So it broke my heart. So I was talking with some of my Marine buddies, and being from Iowa, I could tell it was hurting them a little bit. So I said, why don't you guys come hunting? You know, I can't offer much of anything, but come to Iowa and come hunting. So over that course of the year, we had a couple Marine buddies of mine come out pheasant hunted, and it was just a great time. And I kind of seen something like, maybe I have something to offer these guys. I'm not an intelligent guy. I'm not funny. I'm not none of these things, but I can come hunting with me. So we sat in the shop and we drank beer for a couple days. I don't think we hunted a whole hell of a lot, but we sat around and we shot the shit, and it was awesome. We had an amazing time, and I thought, you know, maybe I could offer this to more people. So my wife, she watches a lot of stupid TV shows at nighttime. So I got on the internet and I figured out how could I start a nonprofit. So I filled out some paperwork, and I'll be damned, a couple of weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from the IRS that said, you've been approved as a 501c3. So I thought, well, shit, now what? You know, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. So I got some guys together and we started Operation Impact 22. And really the foundation of what we do is mental health and wellness of veterans and first responders. So we're not a hunting organization. We're a mental health and wellness organization, but we really use the outdoors, if it be a hunting, fishing, Memorial Day events, golf outings. We use those as avenues to get guys together. We drink beer, and we just sit around and shoot the shit. We try to build a relationship, a bond with these guys and gals. So in the event, you know, at some point, if they need our help, then we're there to help them. So that kind of snowballed into, you know, getting the word out a little bit. And we work with some great outfitters. We work with a lot of dynamite landowners here in Iowa, landowners in Oklahoma, outfitters in Florida. And we just take guys out hunting, fishing, so on and so forth. The situation with Captain Bairstow, on the surface, this guy, again, was the poster child for the Marine Corps. But inside, he was suffering, you know, and again, that broke my heart so bad. So really what our hope is if you're going through something, I want you to come on a hunt with us. You know, if I could bring a smile to your face for an hour sitting in a duck blind, mission accomplished. That's what we're aiming for. And if I can get you over a hump in terms of your wellness or your mental health, all the better. But the goal is just to be there for guys and gals. And if you're going through something, you know, now you have my number. You have what we do. We host these events all the time. Give us a call and let's go shoot at some ducks or something, you know. So that's really what we do. You know, when we put our hunts out, we don't ask if you've got issues, you know, just come. You know, if we're sitting around a campfire drinking a beer and something gets said and we start talking about some deep shit, then so be it. That's what we want, you know. But if that doesn't happen and again, we're sitting around a campfire and laughing and joking, mission accomplished. That's what we aim for.
You mentioned, you know, like that first time, you know, drinking beer in the shop and just shooting the shit. And in reality, like it made me think of times where myself, like, you know, I just had a bad day, or, you know, it wasn't anything like obviously what you guys go through, what other people have gone through, but it's just one of those times. And like my best friend lived literally right around the corner on the street. He used to always come over and like we just sit there up in the barn, drink beer, and then all of a sudden, like I realized I was like, it wasn't as bad as the day as I thought.
Yeah.
But sometimes those conversations, like just shooting the shit, being around people who are like-minded, who truly do care, like if there is an issue that you can just talk and not feel like anything negatively about, like, you don't feel bad about yourself or, think whatever of yourself just for saying it. It's just sometimes shooting the shit is all you got to do. The hunting is definitely an added bonus, but it's just the talking and like organizations like this. It's just the talking, being able to speak your mind is something that is very big. And I mean, honestly, being a hunter and understanding that as well, some of my favorite times to myself are out in the woods. Some of my favorite times with my dad, with my brother, with like any buddies or whatever, are hunting and doing fishing and doing. It's just they're memories and they're things that kind of do help you get over that hump. Now, I haven't experienced the hump like other people have experienced. Luckily, knock on wood. I truly am grateful for that, and I truly can't understand what other people have gone through. But to see people that can go out and hunt and just be in a tree stand or be out on the water and fishing, whatever it is, the outdoors can do something mentally to you that is insane.
Absolutely. I laugh all the time. So over the years, with Operation Impact, I enjoy taking people out hunting now. I've been fortunate in my life to hunt a great deal amount. So I enjoy that, but I enjoy filming now. I enjoy capturing that moment that somebody gets to harvest a deer or a kid or whatever the case is. But one of the moments that I truly enjoy the most is when you get a bunch of Marine vets or these alpha Army dudes and they miss. That, to me, people start making fun of each other and the mood just gets lifted. The value that we get to see in a miss is hilarious. And I tell people, if I film it and I film you missing, I'm publishing it. It's getting put in the video, but it's not about the hunt. The hunt, the kill is always a bonus, but it's about just getting outside. And I've over the past couple of years, I've done some public speaking in terms of mental health and stuff like that. And I always tell people, when it comes to the mental health world of beer, I drink beer, we drink beer, but it's therapeutic, and I don't advocate for people to go out and drink in that sense, but we get a lot of shit accomplished in a shop drinking a beer. And I've heard people open up, and I've heard some dark shit come out, but that's what we're here for. And people got to get that stuff off their chest. And it's just an avenue that we've chosen to kind of pursue. And I think it works, so we'll keep doing it.
One of the big things that you've already, that we've been talking about is mental health. And, I wanted to ask you, somebody who has done some public speaking with it as well, are there signs to look for, in your opinion? Like, I know sometimes you can't necessarily tell, but then sometimes you realize them after the fact. So what is your opinion? Like, are there signs that you can look for in someone who is struggling, who is going through a hard time, and somebody that might need help?
Man, I tell you, it's hard. It's difficult. And being a firefighter, it's even more difficult because I've never met people in a profession that will put their own mental health, their own marriage, their finances. They'll put all of this stuff in the back seat to help somebody else. We will drop anything that we're doing to go help somebody in a time of crisis, even though we're hurting, if that makes sense. So we'll put one hell of a mask on just so we can go help somebody. And that's something that I really try to focus on when I talk with people is the wellness side. Let's take care of you as a whole. And when I talk about that, everybody needs help, period, across the board. If you're married, you can't tell me that you're the best husband, the best wife. If you've got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, are you the best boyfriend or girlfriend that you possibly can be? Are you a father? a mother? Are you the best dad that you can be? Finances. Are your finances squared away? Here's where it's all, they're all small pieces to a big ass puzzle, and it's a complicated puzzle. But if we can start putting those pieces together, it makes you feel better. So, I think when it comes to, your larger depression and all that, there's that stuff. But working in the fire service, it's difficult because we're the best people to put on a front, and we do not want people to show it because we're too busy helping people. It's the only service that I'm aware of that is truly one of the most selfless service, outside of the military and law enforcement. But they put a hell of a front on because they feel such an obligation to the public to help them. And they'll sacrifice a marriage, they'll sacrifice finances, they'll sacrifice their own mental health just to go help somebody. So it's hard. So I don't know if I really have an answer to your question. And that's an approach that we at the fire department have taken over the past couple of years. Our fire department, we require every firefighter to go talk to a mental health provider for an hour every year, which is a pretty monumental step in the fire service. But that's our approach to combat the mask that people put on, because we do a damn good job of covering this stuff up. So when we implemented this program, we really thought that everybody could use help. It doesn't matter if it's severe in terms of depression or suicide, or if it's you need some help with finances or being a better communicator with your significant other. So that mask is real, and we do a damn good job of covering it up because it's mental health, man. We don't want people to think of us different. I'm a firefighter. I can't have somebody look at me, different, but we're trying to change the way that we view that kind of stuff. And so everybody gets help, and it's one way we're fighting it. So
I really like the whole thing about, once a year going to see a mental health specialist or whatever it's called. But, that's not like a nationwide thing. That's just your department. I mean, I'm sure there's other departments, but there's probably not very many departments. And some might say once a year probably isn't even enough necessarily. Now, they might go more on their own time, for the people who are struggling. But that is a very big step, because you might not realize you're struggling. Like, some people don't want to admit it, but like I don't want to use the word forced, but like it's something that you have to do in a way. And then when you go do it, it might be, therapeutic. It might be something that you needed and you didn't realize. A lot of us, especially being males, we're not ones that want to admit that we're struggling and we're having a hard time. It is one of the hardest things for us to do, I feel like. But when we finally do, like I'll never forget my buddy prying, like, what's going on? Like, he just knew. But then, like, when I finally told him, it's like, man, I feel good. But it's hard for a guy, like a male, to open up and be, people want to say soft and, all that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily soft. Sometimes you just have to take the help and use the help that you have at hand.
Yeah. So years ago, when I was looking into some statistics, I love data, I like statistics and all this kind of stuff, but there was a study done by Johns Hopkins University that 25% of adults over the age of 18 suffer from a diagnosable mental condition, a diagnosable mental disorder. So that's 25%. That's an alarming number. But what about everybody else? That was what that was what really kind of piqued my interest, was what about everybody else? So let's say that your finances are a complete wreck. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You don't have enough money to pay your mortgage or your rent or your utilities. And now you get laid off of work. What do you think? Do you think you're more likely to commit suicide now? Well, absolutely. What about, if you're say you have an aging parent, and now you get laid off of work. Or let's say you've got a child that has some medical conditions, and now you're having trouble with your significant other. So this was my kind of thing. Like, all of these things are compounding for people So what if we start isolating these problems and fixing them? How are we going to fix these problems? For Operation Impact 22, the way that we fix them is, I don't want to know your problem. Just come on a hunt with us. I like to reference the raising your hand. I don't want you to raise your hand. If I said, Cole, do you have any problems? You're not going to raise your hand. Now, if I said, Cole, you're required to go talk to a mental health doctor. We don't use those words so harshly, but you're required to go, period. Don't ask questions. See it at the doc's office at 9:00 tomorrow. Say year 1, you say nothing. Say year 2, you open up a little bit, but say year 3, you get, well, yeah, I'm having a hard time communicating with my wife. Let's work on it. That's what we're going to work on. So that was the idea of not having you raise your hand, but going to the 75%, everybody has something that they can work on, period. You're not going to convince me otherwise. So those are the kinds of things that we want to focus on is, again, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you need help with your organizing some finances? That's what our program at the fire department, as well as what we do with Operation Impact. Those are the kind of things we want to help. If we can lessen your burden, I think you're going to be better off. And that's why we blanket treat kind of everybody. We have a department, a pretty good sized department. I know for a fact there's somebody on our department that needs help, period. Statistically speaking, more than one needs help, and we're going to get them their help, period. And we're all going to go to help that one person.
That's awesome. Like, one of the things about you, we've only been talking, I guess we have been talking for a half hour now, but this is our first time talking like in person, virtually, whatever you want to call it. But you're one of those people that like sees a problem and let's fix it. There's a solution to every problem. And I give you a lot of credit because, you found a solution to a lot of, maybe not like the key solution that solves everything, but like it is a step in the right direction. And I give you a lot of credit for that because, and that makes sense now because one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about was like, when I read through, on the website, it says our mission, our vision, and core values. It was like, man, like this is like the kind of stuff that like I remember being in a business class in college and like looking at like this is the kind of stuff that it like your mission, your vision, it's very clear and it's concise. Like it is what you have a clear mission, and that is the biggest thing. And I don't care if you have a business, I don't care if you're you work for a corporate, you have a vision, you have a mission in yourself. You need to find what that is. Sometimes that's a hard thing to think about. Like I feel like we don't, not a hard thing to think about. I feel like we don't think about it. But when you actually sit down and think about like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, you see all these people that are mad about their job, mad about whatever, like don't like their job, like figure it out, find what you love to do and work towards that. It's not going to happen in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, but you have to take the steps to get there.
I could go on for hours on the idea and a mission statement. To me, a mission statement is who you are. And honestly, I think why is the veteran community so susceptible to suicide? My theory is the day you show up to boot camp, you are pounded a mission statement. A mission statement that you believe in so much that you'll die for it. And you won't ask a question. The buddy to my left, the buddy to my right, they'll die for it with me. For our mission statement. The day you EAS out of the service, now what? We just took that mission statement from you. So now what? You don't have a mission statement. I talk to a lot of guys that are struggling, and I ask them, what's your mission statement? What is your personal mission statement? They don't have an answer for me. I had a police chief years ago that told me your mission statement should guide every decision that you make at work and in life. If you start to go off the path, look at your mission statement. That's going to put you back on the path. I had one of our lieutenants today ask me a question, and I said, does that fall in line with our mission statement? It does. And I said, well, then do it. That's simple. But where people miss the mark is they don't have a mission statement. Sit down. I challenge every single person to sit down and write down a mission statement. it's truly going to open your eyes to what's important to you. You know, if you're married, I have a mission statement. Mine includes my wife. It includes my children. It includes my work. These are what's important to me. So if I start straying off my path, I look back at the mission statement. All of our board members in Operation Impact 22, I've made it very clear with everybody, if we start veering away from our mission statement, I'm done. I don't want to be a part of this organization. Our mission statement is very important to me from our Operation Impact 22 standpoint, from our fire department standpoint, and me personally. I don't think people put enough time and focus into their own personal mission statements.
That
Sorry,
was one of the.
I could talk about that for hours, but
No, I agree, because that was one of the pieces of advice that, like, I remember being in a college class. It was my entrepreneurship professor, and he was like telling me, like, we were doing a mission, like we were talking about mission statements for the company that we were fake making, and he was like, but he also said, like, you need to have a mission statement in life. Like,
absolutely.
Think about it, because like in the thing that you talked about, your wife, your kids, that's the other thing. Your mission statement, and it's somewhere, I feel like you need to put it somewhere where you might look at it. You don't have to look at it necessarily every day. It's important to remember, but it's somewhere where you'll see it from time to time to remember why you're living in a way. But
Why am I here?
Yeah, but like, the things that you mentioned, your wife, your kids, that mission statement can change over
Absolutely.
time.
And it should change. It should change as you grow. And as you mature, as you start a podcast, you're passionate about your podcast, your mission statement should include that, and staying true to those mission statements, man. I think if you have a clear mission statement and things start to go a little bit haywire for you, come back to it. It'll put you right back on the path. And there's some dark times that might be ahead of you, but stay true to your mission statement, and it's going to take you far. And again, I wish I could show you my pages and pages, but cross stuff out. If someday my job isn't as important to me, cross it out, replace it with something else, but write it down and stay true to it.
Exactly. I really like that. I mean, I never thought I'd get in a deep conversation about a mission statement, but I'm very glad that I am. I love it. Kind of going more into Operation Impact 22 a little bit. One of the way I found you actually was, because I'm from Ohio, so I'm a little bit further away from where you're at. But the way I found you was actually Midwest Whitetail. I saw you guys did a little collab with them. So kind of take me through how that happened and what that experience was like as well. And for anybody who is a whitetail hunter and you don't know who Midwest Whitetail is, you probably should go check it out.
So I got in contact with Lee with Midwest Whitetail, and he comes from a solid. His dad was a vet. His dad, I believe, still is a senator, or still, recently got maybe out of that. But he wanted to start helping some vets and really giving back to the veteran community. Lee is a stand-up guy, and I love the guy to death. But he wanted to help. So we got hooked up with them. They host a deer hunt for us every year and a turkey hunt for us every year. Last year, I think we had over 200 applicants apply for our hunt. And through the state of Iowa, our Department of Natural, our DNR, we can get a non-resident disabled vet tag. So if you have a military service connected disability of 30% or more, we can get a special tag for you. And that's why we're able to bring a vet from outside of Iowa and you not have to put in for the draw. So we got hooked up with them. They started hosting a disabled vet. So we fly in a vet that we pick. It's an all-inclusive. We hunt Midwest Whitetail's property. We hunt with Max. Max has been our go-to guy. He's kind of the guy that's started out, still does most of our filming on our Midwest Whitetail hunts. But I can't speak highly enough of everybody at Midwest Whitetail. With Max, Grant helps us out. Lee, stand-up guy. All of them are just absolutely amazing to us. And not to mention, we get to hunt arguably some of the best whitetail hunting in the state of Iowa. So I love those guys. I look forward to that hunt every year, and I look forward to sharing that with people that don't get to hunt deer, let alone world-class deer. So
Yeah, the deer that they shoot, those guys shoot every year are just insane.
Yeah.
I'm over in Ohio. We have some nice bucks. We do have like people who take down some nice whitetails, but I don't know if there's necessarily a debate sometimes. I'm not avid into that part, but like, with the Iowa versus Ohio, and there's other states mixed into that as well, but definitely some of the top states to kill some nice whitetails. But you talked a little bit about, the land, being able to hunt their land for those hunts. How do you guys come across, get the land to hunt for your own or not your personal hunts, but, with the Operation Impact, the other hunts?
So another kind of thing that I've realized through Operation Impact 22 is if you have a cause that somebody believes in, they want to help. People they're good. We've got so many good people out there, and mental health is a cause that people can get behind. Being a hunter, that property is not something that people take lightly. For you unless it's a family farm, not many people will just open arms and let you come hunt their ground. But our cause speaks to people, and they see what we do, and they see the benefits of us trying to help and who we're helping. So mostly are just private landowners. They'll get in contact with me or one of our board members, and hey, I've got a couple 100 acres here. I'd like to host a hunt. Awesome. We'll get a vet or a first responder or somebody in. But again, they agree with our mission statement, and they want to help us. So primarily, that's how we do a lot of our hunts here in Iowa. We work with some amazing outfitters outside of Iowa, an alligator, the Gator Man down in Florida, and a guy named Chase Butler in Oklahoma. They're just stand-up guys that want to help, and they believe in what we're doing, and they kind of facilitate a lot of the hunts and fishing trips for us, and we're lucky. We work with some great people.
How many hunts hunts and fishing trips do you guys do a year usually?
It's hard to say. Every year we've been growing, but this year, deer hunts alone, we're probably going to do about 10 this year. And handful waterfowl hunts, pheasant hunts. That's kind of my, I grew up pheasant hunting. That's the places that we hunt in Northwest Iowa. I hunt with a real good friend of mine, and we hunt up there. But
I was going to ask you what's your personal favorite type of hunting.
Yeah, pheasant hunting is still my go-to, and I enjoy that probably more than about anything anymore. But yeah, so roughly 10 deer hunts this year. We've got another phenomenal opportunity. We're going to do a deer hunt in Missouri this year, which is going to be a awesome hunt for us. But again, people believe in our cause, and they believe in our mission, and they want to help.
How do you guys, get people for these hunts? Is there if somebody listening wants to be a part of one of your hunts, how does that happen?
So we'll mostly post them on Facebook. And then most of the time we'll post the application on our website. So either Facebook, Instagram, and then we'll try to send them over to our website. But I would say that mostly, I'll be honest, the social media stuff for us is not good at it, right? So it's a little tricky, but mostly that's what we'll do is we'll put them out on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and then send them over to our website. Sometimes, depending on how much time we have to fill it, sometimes if we've got somebody that says, hey, I got a Missouri snow goose hunt in 2 weeks, we'll put it out on Facebook, and sometimes we'll just have them comment, or sometimes we'll have them go through kind of an application process. But we take what we can get, and we try to fill it with deserving vets, deserving police officers, firefighters, kids. We really got into the kid hunts, youth hunts a couple years ago, and I love doing those. There's nothing like seeing a 10-year-old kid holding this tiny little deer, with the biggest smile on his face, and dad's in the background crying, and it'll tug at your heartstrings, and that's what we strive for.
That first deer I ever killed, I'll never forget. I think my dad was way more excited than I was.
Shaking.
But it was like, now looking back, I'm like, man, like, now that I've got a little older and, been through it a little bit, like some more times, it's like, man, like it is such a cool experience. And like, also like watching, I don't have any kids or anything at the moment, but like being able to watch someone like your son, your daughter, whatever it is, knock down that first deer. And like, just, it doesn't matter how big that deer is. And that's the thing, is like, it doesn't matter. People, like, I follow a few pages on Facebook, like the Central Ohio hunting and like those type of pages. And like, sometimes it's like people post a small deer and you'll have a few of those comments that are like, oh, you should have let it go another year or whatever. And it's like, who cares? You don't know if that's that person's first deer. You don't know my dad shot a tiny little 8-point couple years ago, the year I shot, my buck that's actually hanging right here beside me, and I was so happy for him, because I was like, it's been 8 years. He's gone through an 8-year drought of not getting a deer, but he finally got to the point where he's like, you know what? When I see something walk through, it's good. I'm knocking it down. It's happening. Like, I need to get back to it. But like his, the smile on his face when he took that picture after he shot that deer, and it's like, he's genuinely happy. Like, I feel like his smile is bigger than when he shot his biggest buck that he's got on the wall, because of the fact that like he's back, like he finally feels that sense. And it is a chase. People call it a chase because it is a chase. People don't shoot big bucks on pure luck. Now, granted, during the rut or whatever, you get those bucks that just come through and you just happen to be in the right place. But you have to put in the time. You have to be in the stand. You have to be wherever. It's a lot of work, and I don't think people understand that. I had to have a talk with my sister, actually, because last year she was like, I want to go out. She's been good with her crossbow. She's like, I finally got some time away from the kids, so now I can go out this Saturday morning, because I told her, I was like, this Saturday would be a good day to go out. And we went out, and she ends up shooting a 9-pointer, and she called after she missed a doe and scared away 3 other does because they jumped the fence right beside her. And I was like, I don't even know how you got this lucky with scaring that many deer. But this 9-point walkthrough, she shot it. She calls me because I was close enough in another stand that I heard her crossbow go off. And I said, did you shoot? And she said, yeah, I hit one. And I walked over, and she was out for 2 hours after scaring away a bunch of deer. And after being late getting there, so we got out into the stands way later than I would prefer, like almost sunlight, like legal shooting time. And we got out there. And then I had to have a talk with her. I was like, listen, it's not always that easy. They don't always just come straight into you. Like, I was like, if you want to go out and then again this year, you might not even see anything. You never know. But that's the thrill of it too, is you never know what is going to come through.
Yeah. I think last year, the year before, there's a video on our Facebook page. It's Mark's story. We took his son out pheasant hunting, and his son had never killed a pheasant before. And we had probably 4 cameras on his son. The dog went on point. He had a GoPro. I think there was a drone in the air. We had everything just picture perfect. He puts the bird down, and I run over and grab the pheasant, and I hand it to him, and he's holding his gun, shaking. And he pulls a bullet out of his vest, and he drops it. And he said, Clay, I can't even load my gun. I'm shaking so bad. And I tell you, man, it about brought a tear to my eye. We talk a lot about the essence of hunting. That is the essence of hunting. We forget sometimes of what hunting truly is, with all this commercialization of hunting with money, and that's what I like about Midwest Whitetail. They're a big group of guys. They're professional hunters, but they take care of us. And for us, it's the essence of hunting, and I don't ever want to lose that, because that to me is a special thing, and I'll never take that for granted. That's for sure.
That's awesome. One of the, just for someone to realize too, like there is something, there is a point where, you can't get too far ahead of yourself and what the organization is, and, get overwhelmed and think about, oh, I want, like, yeah, we all want it to grow. We all want it to be this, but when you start to lose sense of why your mission statement, why you're doing what you're doing, why, like, it can't be your personal gain, especially with a 501c. Like, it cannot be for personal gain. It has to be for others.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's our mission statement. I will never lose track, and we won't, and we're going to continue the essence of hunting, and we're going to help the guys and gals that need help. And as long as I think it's working, we're going to keep trying.
One of the final questions I want to ask you about Operation Impact is, I guess it's probably not the final question, but your core values are duty, service, and commitment. I wanted to ask you why you guys chose that, and like what it means to you exactly.
Duty is important. The past 20 years, I've really dedicated the majority of that, the better part of my life, to serving other people. And I think that's important to me when you can start looking at how can I help others. I think you as a human being, it changes the way you think, and I think that's when children, that's when parents, their mind changes of, I care more about this baby than I do myself. So I think duty is important, largely because of that. And service, when you can help, you should help. We as human beings, that's important to me, and that's something that always kind of keeps me going. Is I'm lucky to be able to help, and I'm going to continue to help. But again, those are important to me, and I think as it falls in line with our mission statement, and we'll keep chugging along and following those.
Finally, how can people help your organization from the outside? If they're not somebody that's going to come hunt, or, if they just want to help your organization, how can people do that?
So the biggest thing is donations. A lot of the stuff that we do, nobody in our organization gets paid. So every dollar goes towards our wellness programs, our hunts, our trips, our fishing trips, all of that stuff. So, to some extent, Operation Impact, it's me, and I never want to chase money, but everything costs money, so,
especially
we do a great job.
Hunting costs some money.
Yeah. So, if we bring a guy in from Texas to come hunt late muzzleloader in January in Iowa, he's going to freeze his ass off. So we try to get him a coat, but really that's really what we try to do is we try to raise money, and we try to raise money the right way. We hold a banquet. We try to get everybody together for a good evening and raise some money. But really, if you believe in our cause and what we do, I encourage people to donate money, and again, it goes back to a cause, and we're fortunate to have people that believe in our cause. So, I know you said I couldn't, if they couldn't come hunting, but that's more really what I want from people is to come hunting, because that's the basis, that's the foundation of what we do. And if you need us, we're here. But if you're not going to come on a hunt and you believe what we do, what our cause is we'll take your money and we'll put it to good use. That I can promise you.
If you could give one piece of advice to somebody who's about to thinking about starting a 501c3, what would it be?
Do it. We talked about it earlier. I think in the climate that we live in, people talk. And that's what people do. I'm a believer in doing. If you have a cause that you believe in, if you've got a dream such as running a podcast, I'm talking to the next Joe Rogan, right? Follow your dreams and just do it, man. We sit around and we talk. We dream. Get your boots on the ground and do it. If you want something bad enough, you'll get out there and do it. And it takes it takes some courage. It takes, there's a risk. There's all of that. But just do it, man. You only live once. I know that's cliche as all hell, but get out and do it, man. I believe in this cause. I love being a firefighter. If I can help, do it. Where there's a will, there's a way.
I like that a lot. Just do it. Because that's the thing is, I've talked about on this podcast before, sometimes all it takes is just starting. You just have to start. You never know what's going to happen, or you could be worried about this, you could be worried about that. But if you don't start, you're never going to know the outcome. You have to give it a shot. It might fail, but in every failure, every failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. There is no such, there's guidelines to this or boundaries to this, but there is not necessarily such a thing as a failure if you take it as a learning experience.
I could probably talk another hour or two on the word failure. The word failure to me is a fascinating term. It's never a failure. If you try to do something and you miss your mark, re-aim and shoot again. Your failure is giving up. I love David Goggins. That guy's a psycho, man. He will never fail because he won't give up. He will not let himself fail. Where you fail is by giving up. You miss your mark, readjust and shoot again. It's simple, man. And I think the beauty in all of this is it's simple. Life is simple, man. Enjoy it, smile, do shit that's fun. But to me, it's simple.
Life is simple, and I feel like your own personal, we're the ones that make it complicated when it doesn't need to be.
Absolutely.
And we're all guilty. Every single person is guilty of this. It happens. Yeah. But sometimes you have to take a step back, maybe look at that mission statement and realize it is not that complex.
Figure it out.
You just need to slow down.
We let the noise get to us. We let somebody from another state on Instagram said something about your shirt. Who cares?
That
Don't
you've never met your entire life either. You can't
easy.
get caught up in social media. It's been talked about so many times on this podcast because social media is just a highlight reel of somebody's life. And sometimes it's the mask. It's not true. All right, they have this fancy car, but you don't see that they are literally broke now after that car or whatever. There is so many other circumstances that you just truly don't see. So we can't, you talked about how you guys aren't great on social media, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because obviously this is an organization that is doing well. It's doing it's an awesome organization doing well because there is a awesome cause behind it. But the social media thing, sometimes anymore today, I feel like you look at even on Instagram, I see them, these posts or whatever, and it's quit scrolling. These things talking about quit scrolling, quit looking so much into social media, turn Instagram off by 9 o'clock, whatever it is. Sometimes when you do that, you realize man, I pay more attention to my girlfriend. I pay more attention to my kids. I pay more attention to whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have this little routine that I do every day where, it's reading, it's the Bible, it's journaling, all this kind of stuff, where my phone is not a part of that. And I feel like that's very important. You need to have a time period during your day where your phone's not a part of it, because our phones are starting to control a lot of people's lives. They can't live without them.
It's an addiction.
It is. And that's how it's sad, because that's how, Apple or whoever wants it to be. Instagram, they want you to keep scrolling. That's why every time you go up and you refresh your feed, there's new stuff that pops up.
Oh yeah.
And TikTok was the one that I feel like created this truly endless scrolling, because you can just scroll on TikTok and you'll find a new video for days.
Days.
You will never end on TikTok. But it's sometimes you just have to put the phone away and focus on yourself or your family or whatever it is.
Yep. Absolutely agree.
But we're going to move into some of the final segments of the podcast. And one of the questions that I like to ask all of my guests, and it's a very fun question for me to ask, is if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
One thing. I would probably have to tell myself that it'll be all right. Life will be good. You know, we get caught up in the noise. I journal like you do, and a big quote, not quote, but saying on the first page is "fuck the noise." Stop worrying about what people think about you. It'll be okay, and just smile, man. You know, so much of our day, our life is self-inflicted. If you put a smile on your face, change your attitude, your day's getting a lot better. So it'll be okay. Fuck the noise, be you, and have fun.
One of the big things with like the smile thing is something that an approach I've taken. You know, it's been hard getting out of bed in the morning for work or, you know, whatever it is. Lately for me, it's definitely been hard getting out of bed in the morning. But one of the things I've started doing before I leave the house, as soon as I like start to open that door, I literally tell myself it's going to be a good day. And it is the littlest thing, but I feel like it sets my mindset for the day.
Absolutely.
Of, you know what? You could be driving into work going, man, I am dreading doing concrete today. Whatever it is that you have to do. Today I had concrete that we had to pour a collar around a pool, and I was definitely not looking forward to concrete day. It is one of my least favorite days. It's one of my boss's favorite days because that's another payday for that's when another draw is due for the pool. But it's like, man, concrete, I don't want to do it. But I told myself today's going to be a good day. And you know what? It kind of set my tone for the day of if you just you tell yourself you're going to have things that go wrong during the day. But in reality, it's a mindset. If you allow those things to ruin your whole day, where did you get today? You didn't grow. You didn't get any better. You have to take it every day. Life is short. You never know what's going to happen. So take every day as a blessing and try to grow every single day.
I heard a short quote by Marcus Luttrell. I think it was on Instagram, or it was about 15 seconds. And he said, I was lying naked, dying in a ditch or dying in a hole. Your day isn't that bad. I was like, shit, man, you're right. You know, perspective is a hell of a thing. If we can never lose sight of perspective, we've got it pretty good, you know? So I think of that quote often, you know, like you said, when I'm starting to kind of become negative. This guy was naked, dying in a hole in Afghanistan. Maybe this report isn't too bad. You know, I'll finish this up and put a smile on my face. So
I wanted to ask you one more question before we go into the final segment of the podcast. But, you know, you mentioned that you read a lot when you, this is way back from the beginning of the podcast, but you read a lot in your first deployment. Do you have any books that you recommend, or are there anything that you recommend? Because as a person who does enjoy reading and has a lot of books behind me that I really need to get into, but do you have any books that you recommend?
So I'm a huge fan of I'm a 49er fan, so take that for what it's worth too. But there was a book that Bill Walsh and his son put together, I think shortly after Bill passed away, but it's called The Score Will Take Care of Itself. And he talks a lot about his principles, his concept of taking care of your people. If I, as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, take care of my staff, the staff will take care of the score. We will win championships. The score will take care of itself. He's got a standard operating procedures, you know, if you follow these rules. But I think everything, you know, in my role at the fire department, I have one job, and that's to take care of my people, period. And if I take care of my people, they'll take care of me. So I highly recommend that book. And again, I'm a fan of Jocko. So his books to me are pretty important to me in the way that I look at leadership. But Jocko's good concept, you have to pour concrete. You get to pour concrete. If we can change our mindsets, we look at things different. Our mind is a powerful thing. David Goggins is embrace the suck. If we embrace it, if we enjoy it, it doesn't suck. I know that sounds stupid, but it's a mind thing. Your mind's a powerful thing. Change your mindset. Good. I get to do this.
I
recommend those.
Jocko, I actually listen because we have an hour drive right now to our job site. And so I listened to a Jocko podcast today. I love Jocko's podcast. And that dude is also nuts for the things that he does with waking up at 4. I don't even know what time he wakes up to go work out.
Yeah, he's an animal, but he's that guy's been an inspiration to so many people for years now. Not to mention he's a decorated Navy SEAL, but his mindset of how he treats people, his mindset of how he led is awesome. I love it, and I look at his good concept a lot, and I think there's so much value in that.
I don't know how I still have yet to read his books, but I really need to. Like, I have my brother-in-law read them. Like, I have people that are like, you need to read them. Like they know that I listen to them, that I really like Jocko, and they're like, have you ever had the Jocko Fuel?
I have, yeah. I have. I wasn't a huge fan. And I only had it one time, so I wasn't sure if it was just a one-off deal, but my wife makes fun of me. So she said I got to start acting my age and stop with the supplements and the cycle workouts and stuff like that. So she kind of steered me away from it, but I don't need to have a heart attack on it. So
see, I was a big energy drink person, and my brother-in-law got a bunch of Jocko Fuel. I forget how he even got it, but he came across it and it was on sale and discounted. So he got a bunch of it. And I remember him giving me some because he knew I listened. He was actually the one that introduced me to Jocko, I believe. And it was the first time was definitely, it was especially being someone who used to drink energy drinks all the time. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's just not the same. But the more I drank it, the more I was like, I feel like it is better for me because there is way it doesn't taste like a Red Bull exactly. Yeah. So, but
I tell you though, I'm a firefighter, so I live on coffee. So that's no different, But
are you into the Black Rifle coffee?
I do enjoy Black Rifle coffee. We actually, when we hosted a hunt really early in Operation Impact's career, if you will, I sent him an email and said, this is what we're doing. Do you have any interest in hooking us up? So these guys sent us a box of coffee, of hats, shirts. So we were able to kind of always take Black Rifle coffee with us on our hunts and stuff like that. So those guys are pretty cool to us. And, as big as they are, they still kind of look out for the small guy. So
mm-hmm. They're an awesome organization as well. Yeah. Everything that they've done, and I'm big on Black Rifle now. I slowly worked my way into it because it was partially at the beginning. I was like, man, I don't want to pay that much for coffee. I'd rather just pay for my cheap stuff that I like. It still tastes fine to me, but I've worked my way. I got the Keurig cups with the Black Rifle, and then if I'm making a pot of coffee, I use my normal coffee.
Yeah, but it's good though. I enjoy it. But I like what they do too. They do a lot, and I kind of like to support that when I can too. So
that's one of the things too. Always, you talked about the cause and those kind of things, and be a good person. When there's always service that is available, that is the minorest thing. You could just go to the grocery store, buy some Black Rifle, but that is a service to a great company. You could donate $5 to Operation Impact, but that is a service. It doesn't matter what you can donate, just donate what you can, and it can help in the long run.
I agree.
But we're going to move into the final segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners little inspirational bumps to set their tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what do you got for Motivation Monday?
Boy, I had to put a little thought into this, and I know I rambled about my mission statement, or I would have tried to throw that little spin on it. But my motivation for people is smile, man. When you wake up Monday morning, you got a long, hard week ahead of you, but put a smile on your face and challenge yourself to change the way you think about things. But, again, I think the mind is a very powerful thing. If you're smiling, smiles are contagious too. You put a smile on your face, I think it kind of tells your brain that shit's going to be all right. And let's have fun doing it. If you're out doing a shitty job with a smile on your face, it ain't a shitty job. So I again, in my journal, that's a large thing in there is smile. Don't take the day for granted. Have fun while you're doing it. So I personally try to use that as some motivation for myself, and just smile. It'll get you far.
You said smiles are contagious, but the other thing to remember too, if you want to have a shitty attitude, you want to be all mad about something, that's also contagious.
Terrible.
But
terrible.
I feel like if you're happy about something, it may take a little bit for somebody to fall into it, especially if you're doing something that no one's really happy about doing. But if you're having fun doing it, it makes the job so much more enjoyable. Whatever it is, I don't care if it's a workout. I don't care if it's pouring concrete. Another example that I've brought up again. But whatever it is, if it's something that sucks, embrace the suck. Embrace it. Have fun with it. You got to do it no matter what. So just have fun with it, and it makes it smoother, enjoyable. It just makes it go faster too. Yeah,
life's short, man. We'll look back at these days and think, man, why didn't I smile more? Why didn't I eat that cake? Why didn't I don't know. It's short, man. And as I get older, I see that more, but smile. It's simple. And I think it'll change your day around, and it'll if you get a new outlook on the week, so
100%. Clay, I really appreciate you coming on. Do you want to go ahead and insert your your social media tags if you know them? Go ahead and insert them, and I'll also put them in the episode description with this episode.
Yeah, everything's pretty much Operation Impact 22. So we try to. There's nobody out there really with those. So Instagram's the same, Facebook same. We've dabbled in the TikTok, but I'm learning. I'm old, so forgive me. But yeah, so stick with those, and on your platforms, it'll get you where you want to be.
I will put all of the links to the website, the social media, and everything in the episode description. So if you guys want to go check those out, be sure to also support. And if you want to go for a hunt, definitely hit them up. Another thing is merch drop. Don't forget about it in November 18th, merch drop. Maybe one day we'll get a little Operation Impact and Roughnecks podcast collab and put something out there. But with that, you guys know the deal. Until Friday, life is hard and is going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let the bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks out. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. If you liked today's episode, then be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with a friend if you got some value from it. Head over to social media and follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Don't forget to get you some of that merch by heading over to roughneckspodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter while you're there. See y'all next week. Roughnecks out.